So you've got a slow as car and you want to know the secret to making it fast. Well, in this episode, I'm going to teach you the tips and tricks and tell you the secret to make your slow as car fast on the racetrack. The first thing you're going to want to do when you are trying to make your slow car fast is strip everything out of it. Now, we've already done that and I'll show you the interior of this later on. We're going to actually be stripping more stuff out of it. I've taken everything that we don't need out of the car. So just like Wyatt says, if you don't need it, delete it. All these heat shields, everything's come out. We're getting rid of this exhaust. We are going to run a lighter, better, high-flowing exhaust as well. But the main thing is we need suspension mods and handling mods. Now this car, any car that's 30 years old is going to have clapped out bushes. It's really doubtful that anyone would change those or upgrade those. Thank you though to Superpro, once again for jumping on board. They have hooked us up with every single bush known to man for a DC4, DC2 Integra. We're going to replace everything on this car. It's going to be brand new. We've got all the best parts possible for it. We're replacing steering arms, ball joints, anything that's going to wobble underneath the car while we are trying to do our very best driving on the racetrack is getting replaced, upgraded. You don't want any slop or any slack in anything. Then on top of that, the piece de resistance is the WHITELINE sway bars front and rear. This car actually had them, unlike Civics, but if you have a look at that, it's pinky width in the rear. Better than nothing, but pretty weak. And then we've got the front one is absolutely tiny. I'm pretty sure a Civic one is thicker than that standard. So we're going to do some measuring. We're going to replace those with the WHITELINE sway bars, and we're going to do every single bush, camber arms, caster arms, everything possible, toe arms, and the trailing arm bushes, and also everything in the front. So we're going to show you that process as we go along. The third thing you're going to need if you want to make your slow car fast is a driver mod, and we have that right here. This is Zach Baldy, everyone.
I'm just delivering some parts for you. That's all I'm doing.
No, mate. We're going to put you in a race suit in no time.
I'm excited.
Driver mod being Zach, and that's right, he is a phenomenal driver. That's your other thing you're going to need if you want to make your slow car fast. The fourth...
I don't know. I reckon there's definitely some better people we could chuck in. I reckon we need to have a bit of a battle, I think.
There's always someone better. That's what you got to remember. But the fourth thing you're going to need to do is brakes. Now, we pair up with PROTEX on all of our projects. We race plenty of cars on the track with PROTEX pads and brakes, and they are awesome. This car is no different. We are doing all-round four-wheel PROTEX rotors and pads, and we're doing all the suspension arms, and we've got PROTEX braided brake lines. Something that
should have been on the car since the beginning, because I don't know if you've seen the original brake lines. They're a little bit hectic.
Bit crusty.
They are. So PROTEX ended up sending these out a couple of months ago and haven't actually opened them yet. But they look really nice. They made them up specifically for this car. Apparently they don't do this regularly. But...
Well, guess what? I'm going to make them do them regularly because I want to stock them on the spoolup.com.au website, because PROTEX are just the best quality stuff.
Absolutely.
Check this out.
Beautiful. Everything press fit. Everything's absolutely amazing.
So we cannot wait to get those on. We've got new brake master cylinder, clutch master cylinder, and slave cylinders going on. What else we got here? We've got some intake. Ooh, Motul.
We'll have to see up with this, I reckon. See how we go.
Motul, if you're watching, I don't have an oil sponsor.
And then a couple of other things we have in here that Tristan's helped me out with. I got a beautiful, I don't know if we should show them the original one, but beautiful BMC air filter. Now, in terms of, she's got no carbon, but that's okay because this is lighter than carbon anyway, so it's all good.
Definitely, that's awesome. We're gonna get the twin noises.
That's it. And then for the rest of it, we got some RACEWORKS alloy, which is sick. I'm pretty sure you can get this on the Spool Up website too.
You sure can.
Definitely can.
We'll pick it up later and show you the parts as we're fitting them. We've got a lot of work ahead of ourselves, so we're gonna get onto that right now. We we've got Zach's car fully apart now. All of the suspension is out of the whole car. So all of the arms and everything. We've got Zach over here going to work on...
Failing at this, I tell you what. Scary, man.
Pushing out bushes is pretty scary. I've also cleaned all of the arms, pressure washed them, degreased them with my magical degreaser that makes everything look brand new. Here's a bunch of crap we are taking off the car. Being that this is a track car and we don't need to roadworthy this car ever, we've gotten rid of the dust shields for the brake rotors. This is going to help all that air flowing under the car flow up into the wheels and cool the brakes with our brake ducts we've got in the front, and just also the turbulent air under the back of the car. So removing those to let them cool from both sides, because when the wheel's spinning around 1,000,000 miles an hour, it's kind of basically blocked off. Air can't get through the wheel that way. So we need the air to come in from the inside and push out. Just confident.
I'm very confident.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Beautiful. That's 2 of however many left we have to do.
Probably about 15. So yes, we've destroyed that getting it out, but the rubbers were already cracked and perished and disgusting anyway. So too much movement in these. Swapping them out for the solid bushes, it's going to be amazing. So you've probably heard this 1,000,000 times in the past. The best bang for your buck handling mod that you can do to any car is sway bars. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got a set of front and rear adjustable sway bars from WHITELINE. And when I say adjustable, there's 2 different holes at the end here. So the longer the bar, the easier it is to twist. The shorter the bar, then it becomes much more springy. Just by moving the hole out, that's only about 1 centimeter, it makes this bar much softer and much more flexible. Still a massive upgrade from the factory one. We can see here, this is around 21 millimeters, and this one here is 27 millimeters. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but 6 millimeters plus the adjustment down here is a huge, huge difference. Probably, I don't know, I'm talking out of my butt here, but maybe 20, 30%, even probably bigger improvement overall handling. And then in the rear, the back one, I've said it a few times, as big as my pinky. We're going from 13 millimeters to 24 millimeters in the rear. So that is a monstrous difference. Now in a front wheel drive car, the best way to get it to handle is to do an upgrade on your rear sway bar. Having a rear sway bar that's nice and stiff actually makes the car turn better, because it's putting the weight on the rear wheels and shifting everything and making the back grip like a rear wheel drive car instead of just sliding around. So you can actually get lift off oversteer. You can actually, it feels like you're drifting, but you're obviously clearly not, but it makes the back of the car have a potential to slide if you lift off the wrong position on the corner. So it's a little bit tricky to get used to at first if you've never driven with a rear sway bar like most Civic owners. But we've already had one. We know how the car performs. We're going to upgrade it. We're going to use the softest position here, so it's not a crazy upgrade. So we're going to move it to the outside hole when we mount it to the car. What you'll end up being able to do now is to dive into corners more, and then you can sort of lift off, and then when you turn at the same time, the car will sort of like really sharply turn. It sounds scary, but it's actually really progressive, and it's really easy to feel. It gives you a lot of feedback in the suspension of the car, and it helps bring the back of the car around when you're going into corners.
The stiffer sway bar should theoretically keep it more planted on the ground, correct?
Yeah, so
cool.
it will make both wheels flex and roll at the same sort of rate.
Fair enough.
So normally if you go into a corner, and all the weight shifts this way and all the weight's on this wheel,
that inside
and
wheel.
it will definitely pick up. If you've got some coilovers, it'll pick up the inside wheel. With sway bars, it'll hold it flat so you can actually turn better.
Yep, cool. All right, mad.
We've also upgraded the brake lines. We mentioned this earlier. One thing I did is I got some RACEWORKS silicon and fiberglass heat sheathing. Now these are going to be on the brakes right behind the rotors, and they're going to be very hot in this section here. I didn't do all the way along because it was a little bit tricky, but just that area where the brake fluid is sitting while the brakes are hot. We don't want to boil that, so now we've got some heat sheathing there. This area here can be cooled, you know, by just ambient air, but this will stop boiling our brake fluid. And the braided lines, they can't flex, and if they get hot, the rubber won't bubble and bulge out like one of those cartoon garden hoses. This will stay tight and keep your full pressure in the line. It's been nearly a week since I last picked up the camera and did some stuff on Ronald. So I've been busy fitting up bushes and things into the arms. Now, last weekend, Zach came over, he started filming as well. He brought over his freshly sandblasted parts, and then he also got to work himself painting them up with the KBS rust seal. This stuff, I used it all throughout the entire Evo restoration build, which is still going ahead. I'm just trying to get this back on the ground as soon as possible. But as you can see, I've put in the bushes here for the arms that go here in the front. I've done both sides, I've chucked those in, and that is courtesy of Superpro. Now, we do have the bushes for the rear camber arms, but MAXPEEDINGRODS actually sent us through direct freight from America because they're not on the Australian website. But if you guys ask for them enough, they'll be there. We've got some front upper camber arms, and we've also got some rear adjustable camber arms as well. Now, these are pretty beefy. They've got rubber bushes in there, and they bolt on. Just for now, I've adjusted them out a fair way, which is close to where the factory arms would go. This is the factory arm, which we painted up and got all ready, but we weren't expecting the MAXPEEDINGRODS ones to come through so quick. So we're gonna chuck those in, and then we'll have camber adjustability in the back. That's gonna help improve grip. And of course, so will all of the Superpro bushes. Here's the front lower control arms. Now, these have been refurbished as well. So this is the rear trailing arm bush. Look at this beautiful unit. I just love all the finish and fitment and quality of the Superpro gear. The old ones that were in the car were actually broken and starting to crumble away. You can see here, this one had already deteriorated, both front and rear. It's got a bit of grease on there, but that was already split. So that's why we're going ahead with the solid ones. Now, there is a lot of debate online as to why Honda did the design they did and put the very thin, they sort of go like this from factory. I've done a whole video on it, replacing those with some other solid ones. There is a reason Honda did that, and it is under braking. The wheels and stuff sort of move around, and it helps keep the geometry of the suspension good under braking for normal road conditions. All the track Hondas, all the racing Hondas, which as you can see, this is a race car, have solid bushes in the trailing arms. And I guess maybe it doesn't move around as much to give you that sort of geometry effect under braking, but it is solid, so it's going to be predictable and reliable, and we're not going to get the same movement or flex that you would normally get in the rear. So it's going to be more predictable on track, and that's what you want. You want to be able to trust everything. It's not going to move around. I have started playing around up the front. I've fitted the front sway bar, and I've fitted the rear section of the control arms, but we've gone ahead and fitted the rear Superpro bushes in the back there. So that's gonna be nice and compliant. It's gonna help strengthen everything and make the suspension very, very predictable. Another thing that we've got for the car from MAXPEEDINGRODS all the way from the other side of the world is a triangulated strut tower brace. So this is going to go on straight away. Cannot wait to get this on there. That'll help tighten up the top half of the front end and the sway bar from the bottom half of the front end, and that is courtesy of WHITELINE. So shout out WHITELINE. We've got one of the arms up in the car. This is what it looks like. So we've got the MAXPEEDINGRODS adjustable upper camber arms in the rear. So this bolts to the chassis and then winds in and out to adjust the camber. So we've got the lateral link bushes all done with the nice stainless sleeves, and we also have the solid Superpro rear trailing arm bush. So we can go ahead and get this up in the car. This is what it's going to look like. So here's one I've prepared earlier, and we've got everything in here all nice and situated. and it's nice and sturdy, but it still allows for full range of travel in the suspension, and none of that crazy side to side lateral motion. We've put the braided lines on. I've just started to get that ready for when I'm putting the brakes back on. And how are we going to achieve making this slow car fast again? Well, we're going to put in an engine mount that is at least 1,000 times better than these old OEM original engine mounts. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that with this box right here. This is a hard race replacement mount. Now, the reason why this is 1,000 times better than this one is because, number one, it's complete. It's not Bluetooth. We're not missing any parts. We're going to actually have an engine mount. The second one is it is a lot stronger and a lot stiffer. When the engine flexes backwards and forwards and the wheels are turning as well, every time that moves, you're losing the power effect of pushing the power to the ground because you're losing it in the momentum of the engine rocking. So we're going to gain back some power, but who knows how long this was a Bluetooth for. This is the old piece. It was in there, but it was moving up and down. Every time the engine flexed, this would basically just move up and down and bottom out and not do anything. So that's going in the bin. This is going in Ronald. And it's one more thing that's going to make this slow car really fast at the racetrack. It is another day. We've got Zach back and we're working on Ronald. All right, so in keeping with the theme of making your slow as car fast, I've gone ahead and put together a bunch of parts on the car. So I've been working on it while Zach hasn't been around. One thing we've done is we've upgraded the steering rack ends, and we've chosen the Pro Steer steering rack ends. We've got those fitted. Why is that important? Well, you want good feedback and feel through your steering rack ends, and these ones are greasable. Only problem is I need to go buy a grease gun, but that's going to help us service these and make them last forever in the future. They're labeled left and right. We've also fitted in a new drive shaft, and that is from Bearing Wholesalers. Did you guys know you can just go over the counter at any Bearing Wholesaler shop and just buy new drive shafts for your Civic or Integra or Accord or whatever it is? So we've done that.
How cheap they are as well to do that?
Something like that. They're a couple of $100 and you get brand new OEM quality CV boots. They've come with, or not CV boots, the whole shaft, brand new nut, ABS rings, everything's on there. We've replaced the oil seal here. We got that from Bearing Wholesalers as well. It was only a couple of bucks. We've done all of the wheel bearings, so we've replaced those. We had an issue with they were sort of sticking especially on the driver's side, so we've replaced those, refurbished the hubs. These are all brand new now. And again, you can rock into a Bearing Wholesalers and say, I need a wheel bearing hub assembly for my Civic or my Integra or any of your cars really. I got them for the Evo as well, if you remember. And they just either bolt on or press in. In this case, they're press in the front and bolt on in the back. So this is what the old ones were like. Crusty, rusty, all the seals were starting to flog out and the grease was coming out of them. And yeah, just a crusty bearings. So we've got brand new bearings and hubs in the car. So that's going to help the car roll better. It's going to be more consistent. It's going to be more feedback. We're going to be able to put the power down with the new drive shaft. It's not going to blow out on us. We've replaced the engine mounts. The next thing you're going to need is camber and plenty of camber adjustments. We've got the MAXPEEDINGRODS coilovers. They have worked fantastically. We've gone and fitted some MAXPEEDINGRODS upper camber arms in the rear. Now, we've also got some ones for the front, which are by MAXPEEDINGRODS as well. Quite good quality. However, stupid me, I chucked out the piece that bolts on here and goes into the frame. So in tracking down those, Zach's found himself a set of Hakon, is it? Yeah, Hakon, I'm not quite sure, but I got those from is it TNT Garage? Yep, Thomas. Yeah, yep. Thomas from TNT Garage. This is my first dealing with Thomas, but I've got a lot of Honda guys apparently know him quite well. So my first run-in with him, 5 stars on Messenger. He was a good guy, didn't steal my money, which is great. So yeah,
they're all up there now, and they look great. I like to run my cars pretty low, and we've been, well, you can see all the scrubbage up there, which is definitely going to happen more the more we go faster. So
one thing that's going to help your slow car go fast is bushes, and rebushing everything to a solid urethane bush from Superpro is going to help out that process. As you can see here, I've gone ahead and rebushed the entire suspension on Zach's car. We've got sway bar bushes with the 24mm sway bar. We've got solid bushes all the way through, solid urethane bushes here and here. And I've also gone ahead and spaced these out with a washer just a little bit. I'm no scientist, but this is going to push forward just a little bit of caster. You can add more washers to push this arm forward. So caster is the forward and back position of the wheel, so here or here. For steering, for a nice twitchy steering that gives us a really good direct feel, you want to move the wheel as far forward to the outer corners as possible. So we're moving it out, we're tilting the wheels in with the camber, and we've replaced the steering arm, so the rod end, so there's no slack in the ball joint, and we've replaced the lower ball joint so there's no slack here. And we've replaced the wheel bearing and the drive shaft. So we have no excuses why this thing won't turn sharply and handle amazingly in the front end. To make the WHITELINE sway bar fit, which is the big boy 24mm, I reached out to my friends on Facebook, and thanks so much to Christopher. He lives just up the road and he had one that he wasn't using. So we're gonna get some longer bolts and fit this bad boy up. This is just, I think it's an eBay one, but it's going to do the job perfectly. We've got the brackets on here, plenty of lube. I'm going to scratch off this sticker and put a nice WHITELINE sticker there. The next thing you're going to want to do is power mods. Now, you don't need a ton of power to go racing. You actually don't really need any. As long as the car handles and stops, that's the main thing. Turning around corners and stopping at a track day is more important than power. But once you know you can do that, which we can because we've got all the equipment on here, we're going to need a little bit of power, a little bit of get up and go. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab an exhaust. Now this one was supplied to me by Piyesa Hub. Here's their logo. Charlie from Piyesa Hub is an awesome dude, reached out to me on Facebook and sent me through this piping kit. Now this is a universal kit which fits Civics and Integras. They have the same floor pan shape and design, the same fuel tank shape and design. Although yes, there are some differences, but the overall layout and shape and pipe design is exactly the same. So this is a really great universal kit that you can get. Now, first thing you're going to notice, it doesn't come with any mufflers, it doesn't come with any flex joints, and it doesn't come with a cat. Now, because this is universal, it gives you a lot of extra pipe here, which you're not going to need if you're running the factory cat. And it comes with all the brackets and everything installed, the hangers. And it also gives you a universal up and over the axle loop, which is going to sit you with your pipe out right roughly where you need to be. This is a fantastic kit, and the reason for that is because all of the hard stuff, all the fabrication here is already done. The hangers are done, so that's sweet. Now, depending on if you've got a Civic or you've got an Integra, or whether you've got a sway bar, or whether you've got aftermarket control arms, or whether your car is slammed, this bit here is going to need some kind of modification. So it's not a complete bolt-on kit. That's why it is priced the way it is, and that's why it comes as a universal one. It also doesn't have any center resonator, so if you're going to the track and you don't want one, you don't have to put one in. And if you are going for the street, depending on how quiet you want it, you can put a hot dog, you can put a big res in there. So that's customizable, which I think is awesome. The next part is whether you're running a cat or not. You can change that out as well. Being that this is a race car, we don't need a cat at all, so we're not going to run one. I've opted for a 2.5-inch flange with a flex joint, and I've just extended the pipe just a little bit. Most people are going to have to cut it back to fit in their cat. Also, I have taken off the factory downpipe, cut the old flange off, and opened that up. There's actually a little bit of a false pipe here. Shows you the inside is much smaller than the outside. The next thing we do have from Piyesa Hub is exhaust. So we've got 3 options to choose from: spoon style cannon, lobster tail cannon and the lobster tail oval barrel muffler. Now I posted a video earlier and asked for your guys' help, and you came to the party and gave me some really good suggestions. Overwhelmingly, a lot of you guys chose this muffler, which is the big barrel with the lobster tail down. And you also provided a reason for that, and that is because you want the sound to point down to the ground at the racetrack to help with decibels, and also more baffles to help quieten it down. Both myself and Zach and a handful of other people like the look of the spoon style. I think it looks great, and you can really notice it, which I'll show you soon. I'll do some sound tests with this on, basically straight piped, no res, no cat, and just a muffler at the back. And you can see the difference between the three. However, I do have this resonator here, which is a 2.5 inch stainless. I'm gonna stick that in the middle, somewhere here, and that's gonna help quieten things down quite a lot, which means we may be able to get away with using the spoon style, which is Zach and my favorite design. And we can also tuck it up nice and high and customize the pipe to get this up out of the road. I'll do a couple of sound clips, stick them in here with all three mufflers and straight piped so you can hear how disgusting it sounds. And then we'll make a decision between Zach and myself, and we'll get it welded up and sorted out. Firstly, my apologies to Charlie from Piyesa Hub. I actually lost all the footage. I had straight pipe footage of this with absolutely zero mufflers on it at all. Now I got to tell you, that was so loud. I had my missus in the car and she was being the test pilot by giving it revs for me while I was at the back getting my reactions and stuff. The first time she revved it straight pipe, she actually screamed. So to give you an idea, she scared the crap out of herself and didn't want to do it anymore until I gave her a set of earmuffs, and then she was okay to finish doing it. It was that loud and that bad. Then I got some footage of it with the center res in. Then I had footage of it with just the straight pipe and all of the different muffler boxes on the rear. And they all sounded pretty much exactly the same. I then went ahead and stuck on the center resonator, which I got off Facebook Marketplace. This is the one that we went with, and that is due to your guys' comments on the previous video. Makes a lot of sense. You said to go with this one because it points the noise down. You guys were right. The big muffler with the biggest possible baffle that we had, and with the turn down tip to make the car as quiet as possible. We want it to sound good. We're definitely gonna be up in the rev range the whole time, and it's gonna have nothing on the inside, no sound deadening, no foam, no nothing, no door cards. It's gonna be loud inside here, and we don't wanna go deaf. Even with a helmet and all that stuff, it's still gonna be very, very loud. So good idea. We went with this one, which is the big boy with the downturn tip. I've made a couple of modifications here and there to get the exhaust to clear the sway bar, and we've put it on the extra center res. So the welds on the Piyesa Hub piping kit are awesome. My welds, not so much. Just keep in mind, it's a race car, and I did this as quickly and as cheaply and easily as possible, which is just blast it with the dirty MIG. It's not gonna be a show car. I didn't want to spend a whole week with the TIG, just doing little bits at a time. I'm really happy with this. Zach is really happy with this, and I'm really happy, and thanks to Piyesa Hub for sponsoring us with this exhaust. It is awesome. Couldn't have done it without you guys. We are trying to build this car on a budget, and every little bit counts. So thanks so much, Piyesa Hub. Sorry I lost that footage. I searched every folder in my computer last night trying to find it. And I think you'll agree, this is the most bearable and livable sound that we're gonna get in the race car. Pretty happy with that. It's actually quite nice. It's got a nice deep tone to it. So I highly recommend their mufflers and their pipe kits if you're on a budget. This is excellent and a cheap way to do it. Now the next engine mod that I recommend, but it's totally unnecessary and there's a lot of arguments between whether it's good or a bad thing, is a cold air intake. Now we have the best of the best BMC air filter. You can find these on spoolup.com.au, as well as the alloy pipe and the silicon to make your own DIY air intake. This at the moment is a hot air intake. There is the exhaust, there is the air filter, there is a hot air coming off the radiator. This is going to suck hot air. We know that. Zach has assured me he's going to make a shield. It's going to go around here, shield it from the heat, and do some ducting. That is very, very important when you are racing. You want cold air, not hot air. We're going to get the Dort sounds, and it's going to be an improvement over the old filthy paper filter as far as flow goes. We've replaced the spark plugs and all of the sensors. So O2 sensor, and the air intake temp sensor, and everything has been refreshed with new sensors, plugs, leads, all that sort of stuff, so we can get the maximum efficiency and reliability out of the car. And I wanted to say a big shout out to MAXPEEDINGRODS for the triangulated strut tower brace. This is a very heavy duty item, bolts straight on. It's going to help us with any flex or anything with the top of the tower, and it's going to tie up that sway bar at the bottom and with stiffening at the top. Another thing that's going to help us with steering, handling, turn in, and just chassis strengthening in the whole car. It's going to be amazing. Thanks again to MAXPEEDINGRODS. That looks awesome. So even if your slow as car doesn't make much power and you don't have any performance mods, one thing you can do to improve your power to weight ratio is take out weight. What we've gone ahead and done is cut out as much of the steel webbing as we can, as high as we can. We've removed the sunroof and all of the sliders and everything to do with that. And we're just going to get a piece of Perspex and rivet it into the top here. So it's very lightweight, weighs nothing like glass. Plus it doesn't have all the motors and wires and everything, and all the drains for all the water and all that stuff is just going to be sealed up and on there, and you're going to tint it, so it's just going to look like a black sunroof hole. I've also gone ahead and cut out all of the webbing in here. That's all gone. That's all gone. We've cut out the bits here that we don't need. By the weekend, we're going to have all of this sound deadening taken out of the car. Zach's assured me he's going to go get some dry ice. We'll film that and we'll show that probably in a later video because it's been a while. We're going to get this one out to you guys. Zach has also taken out the entire dash, the heater core, all of the wiring that does not need to be there. It's all been taken out and chucked in the bin. He's taken the dash and taken everything that doesn't need to be there and trimmed it all the way back. So this was actually quite heavy. The only thing he's kept is this metal bracket, so it bolts somewhere in the floor, and the locating bolts in each corner. This seat is going. It does weigh a little bit, so it's going to go mostly in the bin. We might keep the rails. We don't need the seatbelt plug, and we can finally take out that seatbelt once we organize some RACEWORKS racing harnesses. So that's going to be awesome and exciting. And Zach's actually going to paint up the interior. So there's going to be a whole other video coming out soon on that. It's a little bit hard to cut out the doors because we still need to keep the power windows and everything in there. We're not quite at the budget where we're going to replace the glass with Lexan, but that might be again in the future. Another thing I've gone ahead and done is I've taken all of the webbing out from underneath the bonnet. Now this bonnet, believe it or not, it actually was quite heavy. It's no carbon fiber hood now, but what we've done is taken out all the excess metal in here, all of that metal in the middle, and we're moving all of the weight out of the top half of the car. So this is actually quite light now. I'd love to see the before and afters, but we don't have some large scales to do that. But it's a massive, massive improvement, and I've kept a couple of the ridges in here on the corners just for some rigidity. You could argue that I could still cut this out because we've still got the frame all the way around the outside, but I just wanted to keep some structure there. We've probably taken a third of the weight at least out of the bonnet just by removing that stuff there. So we could remove more, maybe get half the weight out of it, but I just think for safety and all that sort of stuff, we want to have some structure left. We might move to a carbon hood at some stage in the future. So these are the things, these are the measures and the lengths you're going to need to go to make your slow as car fast. Now we may still take out more wires, we may still take out the power windows, the power mirrors. We might just ditch all that sort of stuff and get more and more weight out of it. Once we do that, we can cut all the frames out of the doors and make the doors half the weight of what they currently are. Fingers crossed we get rid of all that stuff and we just put some basic latches and basic strap handles on there. But the whole goal with this is to get it as light as possible, handle as well as possible, make as much power as possible without spending really any money except for small bits and pieces that most people can do. Just a reminder, all of these parts can be found on the spoolup.com.au website, such as brake rotors, brake pads, front and rear, the sensors, brand new injectors, oxygen sensors. We've got the intake pipes, we've got the silicone hose, we've got the pod filters, plenty of parts for all the popular Hondas. So check that out. That's my own personal website, spoolup.com.au. Parts you need for the best price. Check it out. Coming up in a future episode, we're going to do the race seat. We're going to remove the sound deadening with some dry ice. We're going to put it all back together and get it off to the track and see how much better Zach's time is in his car. And then I'll also have a crack and see how I go against Zach's time in his own car and see if we can't do any better. This thing already flew. It's going to fly even better now once we've done all these mods. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what you think, any tips or tricks or anything else you've got. Chuck it in the comments below. I will reply to every single comment. Spool up, bring the boost, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.